Welcome to At Work in America, sponsored by Paychex. At Work in America digs in behind the headlines and trends to the stories of real people making a difference in the world of work. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Boese and Trish Steed.
Welcome to the At Work in America podcast for 2025. My name's Steve Boese. I'm with Trish Steed. Trish, good morning. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. How are you?
Happy New Year. I'm good. How are you?
I am well. I'm excited for the show, kicking off yet another year. We've figured out it's season 17 of podcasting on the HR Happy Hour Network, which is fun.
Did you ever think you would be doing this long? Probably never in your wildest dreams.
I really didn't. There's very few people even I've known for 17 years. So it's exciting, but we're glad you're with us. Lots of exciting things happening on the network this year. We're grateful to have everyone joining us once again. Make sure to subscribe, tell a friend, all the things. We got so many cool things happening this year on the network, Trish, including some new titles that'll be coming soon that we're working on. So stay tuned for that. And old friends, of course, with us again this year. Just a lot of it's going to be a really fun 2025, I think.
It is. And we have a new sponsor. So the next show we'll be announcing that, right? We've just signed another new sponsor. It's a big one. So very exciting.
I am super excited on that. We worked hard on that over the last few months and lots of fun news to share around that. And good things to come. So we do, of course, for 2025, we are supported by our friends at Paychex once again. Oh my God, Paychex is made the biggest news in HR tech probably of 2025. I'll say it right now. I'm not sure anything else is going to surpass it for the rest of the year in terms of news in our space, right? With a $4 billion acquisition of Paycor, right, which is another very large HCM provider here, largely based in the US. So we'll dig into that a little bit more down the road. We'll try to get some of our friends at Paychex on to talk about that. But so exciting, and congrats to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's interesting too, whenever a big announcement comes out, and it's sort of like it's like spreading crazily, right, through in terms of the news itself. But what I love is that we've had that relationship with them for so long, and we understand what they do and who the people are. So being able to really dig in on why it's important, what it means to both customers and potential customers is going to be a really different way to handle it, I think.
Yeah. So we'll talk to them and maybe even get some folks from the Paycor side as well to talk about that.
Absolutely.
So that's coming up soon. Let's just remind everybody that we are sponsored by our friends at Paychex. They are one of the leading providers of HR, payroll, retirement, and insurance solutions for businesses of all sizes. Trish, 85% of businesses are expecting higher revenue in 2025, but many are still worried about economic uncertainty, talent shortages, rising costs, right? I'm sure that sounds familiar to folks. So for listeners, please check out the results of Paychex 6th annual Priorities for Business Leaders survey. Paychex surveyed companies just like yours to uncover the top challenges and strategies that can drive business success in 2025, streamline your HR tasks, set up your employees for success and growth, and plenty more. So if you go to paychex.com/AWIA, that's paychex.com/AWIA and get the full reports free. Just go there, get it. Great resources from our friends at Paychex. And thank you so much to them once again. All right, good stuff, Trish. We are here to do our annual kickoff to 2025. Well, it's a kickoff the new year show. We talk about the Rose Parade, the theme of the Rose Parade. Maybe for maybe newer listeners, Trish, or folks who haven't listened back to the show, prior shows, tell us why you're so fascinated with the Rose Parade and why we talk about it every year.
You know what? Since I have been a little girl, I can't even remember the first year I've watched it, but I'm 54 years old. And so I would say I've seen it at least 50 times, I would imagine, over the years, right? It's been, it's just a staple. It's what you do. Like, growing up, there wasn't a lot you do on January 1st, and there's this beautiful parade, right? It's out in Pasadena, which if we can pause a second, obviously that area is being hit with all of the California wildfires. There's at least 5 separate fires burning. I think the last total I saw was 11 people have lost their lives, but just thousands and thousands of homes of all sizes and different economic impacts are being burned. So it's odd that they just had in Pasadena this Rose Parade that is such a tradition. It was the 136th. And then yet, a week or so later, they're dealing with some really horrific situations. So definitely thinking about everyone out there. I know you and I have both checked on friends out there, family out in that area, and seems like everyone I know is doing okay. So, but in terms of the Rose Parade, I think that for me, as I became an older person and was working, there's always a theme. And so it was a fun way to kick off the year. Like a lot of people make resolutions. I'm not a big resolution maker. And kind of looking at the theme of the Rose Parade was a good way to focus in and think about the coming year. And this year's theme is Best Day Ever.
Okay, best day ever. I like it.
Day ever. And so, I mean, just when you think about work, like, are you going to work? Are you making every day the best day ever at work and what you're doing? Is it the best day ever in terms of your home life or what you're doing personally for yourself? So yeah, that's kind of the draw for me. I don't know. You've been doing it with me a long time. Do you actually watch the Rose Parade? Do you enjoy it at all?
Yeah, well, I'll admit to not really being dialed into the Rose Parade before we started doing the podcast about the Rose Parade each year, and we've been doing, I don't know how many we've done, 8 or 10 of them probably. But I have watched it. I recorded it honestly, and I actually in the background here in the office here, I have it on with the sound off. So I pulled it up again this morning, sort of as I was prepping for the show. I turned it on again. I will say this: my absolute favorite float of all the floats I saw,
okay,
I thought was the Wicked float from the Wicked movie, because it was so well made. They had Glinda and Elphaba, right? Both characters made on the float, and made of various flowers or whatever they make these floats out of. But it was so realistic looking in terms of the characters, and this big float with, I don't know why, I just thought it was really, really cool. And I've seen the Wicked movie now twice, so it was on my mind maybe. And I know when the float came by, I'm like, oh, that Wicked float is really cool. So that was my favorite.
Yeah, I actually made notes about that one. So for the first time ever in my memory, I have not watched the parade on the first. It actually was the exact opposite of my best day ever, because that morning I was flying back to my house and leaving Florida. I had been down in Florida for a few days by myself, just a little retreat, kind of reset, recharge for the year. And I fell and I fractured my foot. So it was not the best day ever.
No.
I did not get to come home and watch the parade. So what I've done, I'm actually excited because I'm going to watch the whole thing today, like on replay. But I did watch some of the highlights. I absolutely love the Wicked float. I saw that one. The other one, I'd love to hear your opinion, is the bowling float. Did you see that one?
Boy, that one I don't remember right off the top of my head.
Yeah,
so what was that about?
Huge bowling ball and bowling pins. And since my daughter was a bowler,
Gotcha.
it caught my eye. So, no, you know what? I love it. When I lived in O'Fallon, Illinois, that was always a big deal for our band, our high school band. They wanted to go, I think they go every other year or so,
Okay.
every third year. And that was a big deal. So I just think when you see the work that the people put into building something like each of the floats and all of the intricacies of that, when you look at the different bands that show up, especially the bands from the two schools that are then playing in the Rose Bowl, right? That's always a big deal when the college bands come.
I did notice that. Yeah. It was Oregon and was it Ohio State? No, wasn't. I forget the other team, but yeah, I saw that.
And then all of the equestrians and other just professional performers that come out to that parade. It's just a really special one. So a little bit different than a lot of other parades, I think. But yeah, it was good in what I saw, and I look forward to watching the whole thing today.
Okay, so the theme was Best Day Ever, Trish. So I'm going to pitch it to you first. You can take it either way you want. Either what was your best day ever, or if you could sort of architect a day, design a best day ever, what would it be? So either one you could take up. What do you think?
Gosh. Can I do both? So
Sure,
best day ever easily is becoming a mother, like having twins. I think just because that was the most shocking experience. Like, you're having a baby, but like, when it actually happened, it was super shocking and wonderful. And
you do know, right?
Yeah, you do know.
Right?
But it's one of those things, like in my head, like a funny story about that is I worked at PwC at the time, and I was very, very type A, wanted to go right back to work after having kids. Like that was in my mind. The split second I had the first baby, I looked at my husband and I said, I am never working another day in my life. Like that was going to be it. So, yeah, best day ever. But in terms of what I would do, it's funny. I was thinking about that. And I think a best day for me would be something really simple. I would love to fly to London and just spend the day in Hyde Park, like walking and looking at the swans and having a picnic lunch or something. Something really chill would be my best day if I could create one. How about you?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, yeah, that you could sort of take the default, right, and say, oh, when you became a parent and stuff. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But I would say I've had a couple. I got to when my son was younger. I'll say this one. I guess we used to go to a lot of baseball games, and I particularly recall going to Baltimore, which ultimately became his favorite team. It was his favorite team at the time. So like road tripping to Baltimore to go see an Orioles game down in Camden Yards. I don't know how old he was at the time, 9 or 10. He was young, but old enough to appreciate the whole experience. And, we stayed down in the Inner Harbor there and went to the ball game and just had a really good time. We were lucky enough to do a number of those kinds of trips. Like in terms of going forward for me, yeah, it'd be pretty cool, like simpler, I think, too, sort of like yours. Like it wouldn't be, but the beach for sure, staying at the beach, getting up, having Karen there, Tilly there, like seeing the beach walk in the morning, hanging out at the beach, making some having some good I used to grill a lot of steaks, not grilling them as much more, but like doing something like that outside, just being outside most of the day, enjoying the beach and just chilling at night. And then of course, like settling in the evening for very important, whatever's in season, Bachelor, Married at First Sight, 90 Day Fiance. I don't care which one. I like that 1 hour or so at night to just decompress and hang out with, the family here and just be like, let's watch mindless kind of like TV for an hour before bedtime. Like, and it's fun. So that's my best day ever.
Isn't it interesting that the older you get, the best day ever is actually number one, achievable, right?
Yeah.
Easily achievable. And number two, it is more simple, right? It is being in nature in some way and being with family and friends. Like that's really what makes up the best day. So, well, hopefully any listener out there, you're thinking of the same type of thing, right? And getting out and getting to do something with the people you love and just enjoying yourself.
Yeah, let's go make it happen. Yeah. Trish,
Totally
a couple other things we love to talk about on the show over the years. I have been obsessed with the Pantone Color of the Year for at least a decade. I used to make it an annual post on my Steve Boese blog, right, for years and years.
You have a blog?
I used to, yeah. Google it. It's still out there, I think, the archives.
It is out there. And, I still look at it all the time.
This year's Pantone Color of the Year from the Pantone Color Institute for 2025 is called Mocha Moose. It's kind of a brown, rich brown color, as you'd expect from mocha, and it captures the global mood of connection, comfort, and harmony. Right, that's the idea. And every year, typically, they'll talk about why they selected that color. And it's not so much a prediction. We learned this because a couple of years ago we had the president of the Pantone Color Institute on the podcast, right? And we should probably get her back again someday. But she told us, I remember, that it's not so much a prediction of what color will be a popular color or an influential color. It's more a reflection on what's already happening in the worlds of fashion, in art, in design, in entertainment, right? And so it's sort of a prediction. It's like, hey, this is what's going to be an important shade or color for the upcoming year. So I think it's a cool idea. It's different. It's not a super vibrant color. It's I don't know. Did you notice that announcement, Trish? Do you have any thoughts on the color of the year?
I did, and it's interesting because you mentioned like comfort. It's a cozy color. It's really comforting, and being on social, being on Reels and TikTok and whatnot, I've noticed that the big thing for women anyway, well, I guess for anyone who wears lipstick, for any person that wears lipstick, the shift into the 90s colors of lipstick, which are all shades of basically mocha, right? Really? They're all the browns. So we're seeing it definitely in terms of fashion, because I was looking and I wrote some of these down. I'm wearing Revlon's, which one do I have on? I have on rum raisin. This was a
Okay.
huge color in the 90s. So like the fact that all the things that are old are coming back and reformulated. But the colors that are most notable are Revlon's coffee bean and rum raisin, L'Oreal's mica, which I have to tell you, like, that was funny because that's one I still wear all the time. So to hear young women like on there going, "Oh, look at this color we just discovered," and I'm thinking like, it's in my bathroom right now. Anyway, Velvet Teddy from MAC and Silverstone, which is kind of a brown, a lighter brown. But yeah, so brown is definitely going to be in fashion, right? What about for
Yeah,
men? Like, are like suits? Do you have like a brown suit? Is that
I
still
do.
a
I do
thing? Or
not. I do not. Brown suits are typically very difficult to pull off for men to look good, right? Because most suits are not brown. But interestingly enough, I got one of the Christmas gifts I was fortunate enough to receive this year was a brown sweater. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really cool because I don't wear much brown ever. Like I'm typically grays and dark blues and greens, like is mostly what I wear.
Mhm.
And I've been wearing the sweater, since Christmas live. So I like it and it's brown and it's cool. I should have put it on for the show. I didn't think of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a pretty cool gift and I
Mine's
really
it's
like it.
hard to tell. It might look a little gray. It's actually brown.
Nice.
Like a light mocha. I'm like a latte today.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. You're like a latte. I love that. So a couple more things, Trish, we wanted to cover before we sort of wrap up our first show of the year.
Yeah.
We have invested at H3HR Advisors, our company, a ton of effort and research and just time really building our 2025 trends report. We published it, I don't know, Trisha, I guess in November of 2024, we posted it on the website. It was our longest version of a yearly kind of outlook or trends report yet. It's like 55 pages long or something like that. It hits up 7 trends that we think will be important in the world of work and the world of workplace technology. We've been spending a lot of time. We're going to be presenting on it to a client next week, as a matter of fact. And I'm super proud of it. So I do want folks as they get back to work and get re-engaged, at the new year, if they're interested, you can check it out. It's at h3hr.com and just click on reports and you could get it. But I'm glad that we did it. And I have some thoughts on it, Trish, but like I'd love for you to maybe share like some of your thoughts on what's really going to matter this year in the world of work.
Yeah, it's interesting. Karen does such a good job too of helping us chunk it out into smaller, more manageable bits and bytes too, right? I was going to show one of the things and we can get copies of this for people. So we even have like little one pagers that we
Yeah.
have of the trends. But what strikes me is of course AI and skills, right? Or mentioned that you have to. But things like caregiving, which haven't hit the trends reports heavily in the past, are starting to become much more talked about in the workplace. And not just caregiving for yourself, because that's part of it, right? It was more like well being and mental health, which is still important, but it's more about caring for yourself
Yeah.
and caring for if you're raising a family, potentially, right? That could be caregiving, but also for aging parents or
Yeah.
grandparents or aunts or uncles, right? Extended family. So that's been different, hearing about the impacts. And every time we're collecting information from people, that seems to be a common theme. People are struggling now with how do I balance what I'm doing at work with not only taking care of maybe younger children or college age children, but also parents. So that one rose up to the top. Also, people analytics. I think with AI brings more of a focus back on the analytics side of what are you capable of doing with the information that artificial intelligence helps you obtain.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're seeing a little bit of a rise in the people analytics. What about you? What struck up?
Yeah, well, to me, as I look back through the process that we developed to build the report and the research that we did, and then the report itself, that balance and or perhaps a little bit of tension between the technology like
Mm,
AI, skills tech, right, analytics,
yeah.
and kind of the more personal or emotional side of what people do in HR, right? All around caregiving and mental health, well-being, financial wellness in particular is one of our 7 trends that we call out
Mm,
specifically.
yeah.
And, you know, organizations working hard to kind of balance the two, right? And it's always been a challenge in HR, right? To balance the sort of really business focused side of HR and the people business with the people themselves, right? And it's getting more challenging, of course, as the technology becomes more powerful and has the potential to disrupt more organizations, perhaps even replace more individuals. And at the same time, right, we see people struggling still with mental health, struggling with their financial well-being, struggling with caregiving, as you said aptly, Trish. So to me, walking that balance, right? And then even we didn't mention hybrid and remote work, Trish, is still 5 years after the start of the pandemic, still a really big deal in many organizations. I just saw yesterday JP Morgan, the latest very large organization, calling all employees back to the office 5 days a week, right? And so the tension and stress around that continues. And then finally, we didn't mention this yet, but I'll mention it because it's one of our trends. What's happening with DE&I this year? Remarkable, right? So many companies stepping back from DE&I, a couple companies still saying, hey, we're still really committed to this. And just Meta, just over the weekend, Trish talked about how, yeah, we're rolling back all this D&I. We're going to, we're getting rid of our chief diversity officer and on and on and on, right? So we can do a whole nother, we'll do shows on that all year long, and we'll do shows on all these trends, right, this year. But
well, and the fact that SHRM, right, if you're an HR professional, SHRM has taken, the E out of it, not completely. It's sort of like off to the side, right? But so they're kind of having to take a lot of flack from, organizations where you've told us for years this is super important to put it in, and now you're right, dialing it all back. So
yeah, so yeah. I think that our trends are right on. I'll pat ourselves on the back. I think we anticipated some, and we're reflecting what's happening in 2025 really, really well. So I encourage folks to go out and check out the report. It's free. You don't have to give us any information or anything like that. Just go out there and get it. So
just click it
and we'd love
and
for
share
you to
it.
Tell us what you think. Yeah.
Click it and share it. And also, as you read things like reports, not just from us, but from wherever you get your information for your job, I would say share back with whoever writes those, because people do put a lot of time and effort into these trends reports or just reports in general on the industry. Go back to them and say, hey, this really resonated, or oh, this doesn't, right? So that's kind of the feedback loop, right? I think that there are a lot of analysts in the space who give a lot of time and effort for free to the industry to help people in their jobs. So definitely, circle back with whoever wrote the reports you're reading and let them know if they resonate, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really proud of that. And thank you, Trish. Thank you, Karen, for all the great work on it as well. Last thing, Trish, I love this idea of talking about sort of, I don't know whether it's a word of the year. I don't know if you're a person who picks out a word to kind of center your thought process around the new year on, or what's one big thing you're thinking of for 2025, whether it's a goal or some place you want to go, something you want to do, some person you want to meet. Do you have anything out there for 2025 that's on your radar?
You know what? I like the word idea. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not a resolution person because I would forget what I resolved, I think, by the end of the year. Last year, my word, it's more of an aspiration, I would say this. My words are sort of an aspiration for me, and it was unbothered. I wanted to head into last year being unbothered by things. I was unsuccessful. I was extremely bothered by lots of things. But here's why that having a word works for me anyway. So without giving all the details, I was in a very bad relationship for many years, right? And I was very bothered by that. And so I became unbothered. And I'm not laughing about that itself. It was difficult. But I think that giving myself a word like that, I was able to then remind myself, you know what, you need to get yourself to that place where you can feel more unbothered by the situation you're putting yourself in. So with the Wicked theme, when I saw the movie the first time, in Defying Gravity, she says the word unlimited. I love that word for this year because I think 2024 too, for our business, for the podcast, for everything, it was a little bit of just a holding pattern, right? We were celebrating having 15 full years of shows, for example, and not a lot of new coming in. So to me, it's going to be unlimited. So in terms of work, we have, like I said, we've got some exciting new clients already signed. We've got a few more that are about to sign. So I think it's working with new people, because to me, that's what challenges us and keeps us fresh. And also, we've got at least 2 new shows coming out this year. And that's also really exciting and like unlimited, thinking about what we can do that we're not doing. So to me, it's sort of an exciting word. But I don't know. What about you? Are you a word person? Are you a resolution?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot. I did do some resolutions. I did them in the form of a bingo card because I'd seen this interesting kind of video about
Okay.
setting them up that way. And the paper is somewhere. I don't have it right at my hand, but I did create a few things, some goals, some of them are a little bit more practical
And
and
mark your
tactical.
bingo card. I love it.
Yeah, I've started. One of the things, I'll give you an example. One of the things was I wanted to make sure I read more this year. So I wanted to read and complete 12 books. That was a very easy goal I set for myself, like 1 per month. I'm almost done with the first one. And the second one is like around here somewhere where I'm going to start once I finish the first one. So things like that. But in
I
terms of a
love
word,
that.
I remember, I think my word for 2024 was empathy. And I
It
was
was.
thinking a little bit more about kind of some of the workplace things. And it's reflected in, right, at least half of our trends reports, which really talks around those empathetic kinds of issues about caregiving and mental health and well-being. So I think that was a good word. I'm not sure I got more empathetic during the course of the year, maybe or maybe not, but
You know what? I think in knowing you, I think you did with yourself.
maybe so. Maybe
I
so.
think you're more empathetic with yourself. And I think that's something we don't do well as people, right? We're always thinking externally, right? Giving empathy to others, but we're not really focused on ourselves and
Yeah.
giving ourselves a little grace. And I think outwardly, I think that's what you're doing a little bit
All
of.
right.
So
Well, thank you. Yeah.
pat
And
on the back.
so yeah, I had a couple words I kicked around for 2025. Purpose was one, to just try to do
Ooh.
things with connecting a little bit more to a broader purpose, both in what we do for work, but also things outside of work. You know, like in terms of being more involved with people, getting maybe more involved in the community, doing some volunteer work, things like
Mhm.
that, which is part of my list as well. And then a thing we talked about, Trish, I won't spill the beans about our sort of internal strategy and planning, but elevate was another word that we used a lot as we talked about
I like
2025.
that.
And so trying to, in the broadest sense. And then finally, I had gratitude. And I'm super grateful for
Um,
you, of course, Trish, for
thank-
Karen, who does an amazing job with us, and our clients, our partners, our listeners, as we head into year 17 of this podcast. And depending on how you're consuming this podcast, you may notice some things we're recording them on a new platform. We're distributing them on a new platform after all this time. So lots of changes, but I'm grateful for folks who are with us along the way. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
I love those words. You know what? And I would just say challenge um, your family or your coworkers. Have a buddy, have someone where you can challenge, because I'm listening to your words and I like those. I mean, I think that inspires me already. My wheels are turning a little bit. So
Awesome.
I think that's
Well,
good.
I'm excited for 2025. I think it's going to be a really exciting year. As always, we'll have lots of events to go to and trips planned, and things we'll
Hmm.
be attending, speaking, presenting, and yeah, lots of fun to have. Lots of great guests coming up on the show, and more interesting things to come, as you said.
Yeah. I'm glad that you shared your bingo card idea. I had not ever heard of that, so I love that. So I may have to steal that one. And I love the idea about just a manageable amount to read. One that I saw on Reels, and I actually reached out to both to Karen, of course, but also to our friends Madeline Lorano, Chris Havrilla, and Meg Bear. So I saw where you each take a book. It could be one you go buy, or it could be one you have, and you have a list and you send it to the next person on the list, and they get to read the book and annotate in it. They can draw in it, they can underline things, they can highlight things, they can whatever, right? Put little tabs on it. And then they read it and then they send it on to the next person on the list. So by the end of the year, you've read however many friends you've brought into the circle, right? You've at least read, in
Right.
our case, 4 new books. But you get your book back with like all of the things that your friend group think are important about that book, what they found interesting. So you can kind of reread your own book and sort of see what you think based on what they think. So yeah, just kind of a fun way to do that. So yeah, find creative ways to read. I think that's a good one for the year.
All right, good stuff, Trish. I think we'll let it go there. It is, a great way to start the new year. I'm excited. Thank you. Hopefully you're on the mend from your New Year's
Totally.
Day experience, and
From my worst day ever.
for your worst day. Well, wait, if the worst day ever is on January 1st, then it can only get better, right? But
That's what I said. Like if you fall down the stairs and break your foot.
All right. Great stuff. So thank you, Trish. Thank you, Karen, for putting this show together and all the great notes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks to our friends at Paychex, of course. And congratulations once again to Tom Hammond and the entire team at Paychex for that great news. And remember to subscribe. Go to hrhappyhour.net. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for being with us once again in 2025. Here's to a great year. So my name's Steve Boese for Trish Steed. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. And bye for now.